"They broke my toy and hit my mom," the child cried. Then the bikers rode toward the factory. The rain fell hard on the edge of the old highway, drenching the broken sign that read, "No trespassing." Beneath it, a small boy, no more than 6, sat in the mud clutching a cracked plastic truck with one missing wheel. His tiny hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the sight he had just witnessed, his mother lying on the ground, bruised and sobbing, after a group of men from the nearby factory had shoved her for asking why they had dumped waste behind their small wooden house. The boy's eyes were swollen with tears, his toy broken in the scuffle, his world shattered in a single cruel moment. The storm roared around him, but his cries were louder, pure, raw pain echoing through the empty road, until the sound of heavy engines began to grow in the distance. If you believe that kindness still matters, that even the roughest hearts can change, and that second chances can heal broken souls, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Let's keep stories of hope and humanity alive. The small town of Red Hollow had always been quiet, the kind of place where people worked hard and spoke little. Factories lined the edge of town like silent beasts, their chimneys breathing gray smoke into the sky. One of those factories, a metalworks plant, had been dumping waste into the nearby creek for years, poisoning the land where small families lived. Among them was a young widow named Clara and her son, Jamie. She worked cleaning homes in the day and sewing at night, struggling to feed her little boy, her only family left after her husband died in a construction accident. Life was tough, but they found joy in the simplest things: a shared sandwich, a paper kite, a toy truck Jamie adored more than anything. Then came the day when the factory's greed crossed the line. Their chemical runoff destroyed Clara's small garden, the only food source she had. When she went to confront the factory guards, she never imagined they'd react with violence. The men mocked her, pushed her, and one of them kicked Jamie's toy truck from his hand, smashing it under his boot. When she tried to protect her son, they hit her too, hard enough to send her falling against the muddy ground. That's when the boy screamed, clutching his broken toy and running for help. His cries echoed through the hills until they reached a group of strangers taking shelter under the old bridge, a gang of bikers. They were rough men with leather jackets, tattoos, and faces hardened by life. People avoided them in town, calling them troublemakers. But that day, as the boy stumbled toward them soaked and crying, something shifted in their eyes. Their leader, a broad man named Hawk, crouched down beside the child. He had been a soldier once, before the world broke his spirit. The boy's trembling words, "They broke my toy and hit my mom," hit him like a bullet from the past. Hawk looked at his brothers, each of them scarred by their own regrets, and without saying a word, they started their engines. The roar of those bikes tore through the storm like thunder. Jamie ran behind them as far as his little legs could go before Hawk stopped, turned, and gave him his worn-out leather jacket to wear. "Stay close to your mom," he said softly, before riding toward the factory gates with fire in his eyes. The guards barely had time to react before the bikers surrounded them. It wasn't chaos, it was justice. They didn't raise weapons, they raised their voices. The leader demanded the manager come out. Inside, workers peeked from behind walls, watching the unlikely confrontation. When the manager appeared, the bikers made him face what his men had done, not just to Clara, but to the entire neighborhood poisoned by their waste. Hawk's voice shook with anger and pain as he told the man to clean up the mess his factory had made, or he'd make sure every camera in town knew the truth by nightfall. That night, the storm cleared, and the air smelled of wet soil and gasoline. The bikers stayed outside the small wooden house until the factory trucks arrived to collect their waste and repair the damaged property. When Clara stepped out, her face bruised but her spirit unbroken, she saw the rough men who had come to her rescue. She didn't know what to say, but she didn't have to. Hawk nodded silently, his expression softening when Jamie ran out holding the broken toy truck. Without a word, the bikers took the toy, disappeared for a moment, and came back with it fully restored, cleaned, painted, and fixed. It gleamed under the moonlight, better than before. Jamie smiled for the first time that day, and when he hugged Hawk's leg, something deep in the biker's heart began to heal. In the following days, news spread through Red Hollow about what had happened. The factory was forced to change its practices, and Clara was offered compensation for her injuries. The bikers, once feared and hated, became silent protectors of the town. People began leaving food outside their roadside shelter. They didn't ask for thanks or forgiveness, only the chance to do right where the world had gone wrong. Hawk often visited Clara and Jamie, bringing small gifts, an extra loaf of bread, a repaired toy, or just a smile. He had no family of his own, but in that small house, he found something that felt like home again. Months passed, and life slowly returned to peace. The garden bloomed again, the creek ran clearer, and the laughter of a child filled the air instead of cries. Jamie would often sit on the porch, playing with his toy truck, waiting for the sound of engines rumbling in the distance, the sound that once brought fear, now bringing hope. The bikers never asked for recognition, they just rode on, carrying the memory of that rainy night in their hearts. In a world where cruelty often hides behind power, kindness can come from the most unexpected souls. Sometimes, the ones we fear are the ones who stand up when no one else will. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion still exists even in the roughest hearts, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support keeps these true-to-life tales of courage and kindness alive.